And then it says that there's 17 people in the waiting room. Let's see. I don't see them. Admit all. There we go. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Hello. Oh, good. I'm so glad to see Sharon's here. So this is our fifth meeting of the REMEDIO Pedagogical Advisory Committee. And just for folks that are new, this is part of a creative reuse cultural education project that came out of the Reggio Emilia approach in Italy. And I've invited some students from my Inquiry Puzzles of Practice class here tonight. We've already been looking at Loris Malaguzzi's Image of the Child, and thinking with Loris Malaguzzi around that concept of how we see children and their capacities. And this is a project, a recycling project that came out of this Reggio Emilia approach that Loris Malaguzzi was a co-founder of. And in 1997, the Reggio Emilia municipal schools are part of the public school system of infant toddlers and pre-primary children who practice this philosophy of the Reggio Emilia approach. In 1997, I don't know how many years after the first Reggio Emilia school, they started this recycling project. And basically, the city and the schools are very much in communication and very well connected. And so the Reggio Emilia schools collaborated with the water company, who goes around and collects discarded materials from local manufacturers and collects them, takes them to this huge warehouse, where the pedagogistas who practice, the pedagogy, their philosophy of teaching, their style of teaching, around waste materials. And they collect the materials, they organize them, they display them, they exhibit them, and all very intentionally, really honoring the materials themselves, as well as children's right to express their complex identities through these complex materials. So I don't want to go on too much because Sharon's gonna really tell more. I've invited Sharon, who's the atelierista, also known as the studio teacher, at the Huggins Center, Child Development Center at Fresno State, to share some of her images from her visits to Ramita and Reggio Emilia, Italy tonight. And so I guess, Sharon, I'll go ahead and make you a co-host. Let's do that. Oh, good. This is alphabetical. Okay. So there's not very many Reggio Ramita inspired educators in the Central Valley. I'm used to there being more in Portland, where I come from, Pacific Northwest. And so the reason that this is a pedagogical advisory committee is because I'm sharing some of the pedagogy of this creative recycling, reuse cultural education, as well as kind of building this advisory committee that will help us develop the little baby tiny recycling Remedio project that we have in the Huggins Center in Kremen. So Sharon, does that work for you to share your presentation?
Yeah, so I just click on share.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so let's see.
And this is very much a learning space, so this, feel free to make mistakes and take as long as you need to figure it out.
Okay, so how do I get to desktop from here where my stuff is all on my desktop.
So you would actually quit sharing and then pull up what you want to share with us and then share and click on it. It'll be on some of the choices on your main screen.
Okay, so just open the file.
Yeah, that should work. Mm-hmm.
They can see my screen, but where is my desktop though to share? Oh, so I can just, okay.
If anybody has any
Here now?
suggestions,
Okay.
yeah.
All
I
right. So
think that
everybody,
it's very small though.
yeah,
Can you
I will,
make it bigger?
yeah.
Oh yeah, there
Okay.
you go.
Like that. Okay. And then I think I can go to slideshow. Okay. Like that.
There we go.
Okay. So I went to Reggio Emilia as part of a work study team in, I think it was 2012. And there were two of us that went. So we stopped first at the Reggio Malagucci Center. And these were some images from there of the documentation they had. So some of this is at the center, and some of it later will be at the Remedia warehouse that they had. They had this huge warehouse that was completely amazing, and they prepared this huge dinner for us that was just it was so beautiful. They arranged everything. You'll see a picture of even the spoons were arranged in a certain way. Very mindful um, planning. When you got inside, they had a bunch of these little paper boats that they had made with lights. Okay, and this was just some other documentation at the center, the Malagucci Center, and these were all made by children, of course, studying clay and working with clay for a long time before they were able to make these kind of images. Some of them up close. All right, and then this is kind of some documentation that was just outside some of the centers that children made with just natural materials. I'm not sure how long that would last around a lot of the children that we're used to, but it was really beautiful. And they just had baskets of materials set around for children to use to make these arrangements. A lot of their exhibits were based on color, so that it was very stark for children just to be able to see and be able to choose which materials they wanted. So this is in the Remedia. It's this huge warehouse that they had prepared for us to look at. Well, it wasn't prepared for us, but they got it ready for the night. And even the trees outside were like laced with um, different types of material. This was the warehouse. It was like a very industrial type building. But look at these lacy things that were all over the trees. Just the types of materials that were in there were really interesting. Things that we could collect easily. Was that a video?
Yeah, I've got quite a few broken glasses in my drawers.
Yeah. And these were all like note cards and business cards that someone had collected. Oh, here was some of the food that they prepared for us. It was just totally amazing. Look at the spoons even all arranged. Different types of material, but mostly arranged by some commonality, either color or texture or something. And children were coming through too and lighting up these little paper boats with tea lights.
Mm. Were you just touring or were you actually like, did you have an appointment with the Remita
Oh,
Pedagogistas?
it's an appointment. They did this for the study group, but that was there at this time. So they
Oh,
prepared a large dinner, and I think that the public was there too. There were a lot of people there, so it wasn't just us, but it was just amazing. So then these are some of the containers that they stored things in. The lighting was amazing because it cast a lot of sh different shadows, and some of the different containers that they stored. You can tell these were some sort of industrial type containers. I'm sure we could find things like this if we just knew where. See, arranged
so
by.
thank
Go
you for
ahead.
bringing that up, Sharon. I'm sorry. Just folks, notice the way that they're containing the materials or not. Sometimes they just fold textiles. They don't use any containers because part of what I'd like to do tonight is after Sharon shares these images with us, is to talk about how we at Fresno State can source containers to hold our materials. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then they had a whole fabric section that was just out of this world.
Mm.
All these old um, threads that nobody really wants anymore. And at
Mm.
the bottom, all the ties. I mean, some of these are more formal type display boxes, but I'm not sure if they were discarded ones that they got somewhere or,
Mm.
but they placed like materials together. So, and then teachers could make an appointment to come to the Remedia and pick up supplies that they might need.
Cardboard.
And even like this was just crumpled cardboard or crumpled brown paper that they had placed out.
Mm.
It was like a bigger shot of it. And on the floor here, they had this is where the kids were making the little paper boats and adding the tea lights to it. But even newspaper, just all bundled up. And I think this was people were, I don't know, using some of the materials to make little designs. And some of the things had, I don't read Italian, so I don't know what it says, but the boats had little messages written on them.
So some areas are materials on display for teachers and community members and children to take home or to the classroom. And then you're also showing us provocations that are set up for adults and children to touch, engage with, experience.
Yes, this was a big, it was a community thing because it wasn't just our group, but our group was really pretty big. It was from all over the US and different countries. So it was a pretty big group, and they just prepared this wonderful visit for us. But see, these containers that they have here, these are plexiglass containers, which are pretty interesting with knitting needles and partially knit things. So people got collected a bunch of different types of items that, normally you wouldn't think that you would be able to use them. Even,
And there we see some organization by color,
yeah, color, size, shape, texture, or purpose.
quantity.
Yeah, and it was a huge warehouse, and it was like filled from. We had to walk around it. It was really big, and it was filled, just filled to the rooftop, really. And then there was a whole book section.
Oh.
I know I have a lot of books.
Dr. Dominguez, there's I believe Desiree wrote something on the chat.
Yes, thank you, Desiree. I'm writing this down right now. There's a San Jose, California resource area for teachers where recycled materials are used for teaching. I will definitely be looking into that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eileen. And then the use of lights, combining the languages of light with the languages of reuse materials.
And also opacity and translucency and
Mm,
all kinds of things that put into play.
mm.
And then some of these were things that people would put together with old parts of tools. I have another thing I'll show you on the tools. Believe this is still in the center. Yeah, that was the center stuff. All right, now, do you want to see any more?
Yes, please. I imagine Rachel's eating her heart out.
All right, so let's see. I've got some of the centers and the documentation that they had at the center. Some of them are kind of blurry because I had to take the pictures pretty quickly because we really weren't supposed to be taking pictures,
You're
but
not. I know, but who can resist?
it was just so amazingly beautiful. And people were taking pictures all over, really. Yeah, this was right outside the window of the center, the Malaguchi Center. And they
Mm,
every day they prepared a lunch for us. And
mm,
wine, of course, with our meals.
mm, mhm.
And again, this is just, I think this is still at the center, and these were just provocative materials that were placed out for people to look at and to think about.
So here we're starting to see, were you there? This was before the Borderlands border crossings exhibit, right?
Probably it was like in 2012. And
Yeah, I
they
think the
have,
border crossings, oh, 2012?
yeah,
Oh, 2015 is when the border crossings came out. That's
yeah,
when they started to introduce this idea of the languages of reuse materials, nature, and digital. But what's interesting is I'm already seeing some of that.
yeah.
And
They had
how can we put those in conversation with each other?
at the Malaguchi Center, they had several different display areas. There was one was just light and the different things you can do with light. So it was a room where you went in and you went around corridors and they had fixed it up so there were like passageways and different things you could do with light. And
Mm,
then another one was sound. So things that would happen with sound. So some of it was very
mm,
technological and some of it was very sort of rudimental.
mm,
And this is some of the ways they set it up for children. Just put these things out with a screen in the background.
mhm.
And these were just examples of children's work.
So we did an inquiry into light across the infant, toddler, and preschool that went on for a whole year. So for the IPOP class, sometimes these inquiries with children can last 5 minutes, and sometimes they last up to 2 years or more.
Yeah, yeah. I want to get like there's a lot of little rooms at Fresno State that aren't really being used that could be used as a light room. That'd be really great, but I haven't been able to get permission to do that yet.
Well, Remedio could be a space for that.
Yeah, and this was pieces of copper, I think, that children had scratched onto. And again, this was just like video. And these are all like different materials that children set up. Wire explorations. But these are kind of interesting little setups. I believe this might have been at one of the centers.
Mm.
Kind of interesting.
Forest and nighttime, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I've done things like this at the center, set the blocks up, and had the projector on it so children would play, and then set up baskets of I don't know different things like natural materials, farm animals or jungle animals and things like that, so they could play.
Mm.
It's this little girl outside of the center who was rolling on this ball. It's kind of interesting, is it made me think that like a lot of times we don't allow children to explore things like this. She's rolling. I'm not sure if it'll play. Let's see if I can make it play. Oh, guess not. She was just rolling along on this ball and sometimes I just feel like we don't let children play with things like that for fear they're going to fall or be hurt or something. Oh yeah.
This
I
idea of, sorry. You just got me thinking about the idea of bringing these huge recycled loose parts outdoors, right? And
yeah.
there was a exhibit at Portland where they did the adventure playgrounds, which came out of Britain after the World War II, when everything was similar to Italy in rubble. And the children started just putting together their own play spaces, and so they have these very raw, very unfinished, wild playscapes, and these play workers that have developed to work with that element of danger and calculated risk, but also allow children the freedom. And they had this huge banner when you walked in, and it said, and this is each person, their own opinion on it, but it said, "Better a broken bone than a broken spirit."
It was interesting is that we went into this one school and there were a lot of kids. It was very beautiful, many different rooms there. And then there was a huge playground. And I went out to the playground and there were places for kids to tunnel under and trees, and they could go in and make a little forts and things. And I didn't see a lot of teachers out there, but these kids were just playing. And then when I went back in, I went to this one room and it was like a room off of another room, and there was like a big cutout window on it. And when I walked in there, there were like several, maybe they might have been two or three children playing in there, and there was no one there telling them what to do. But what they were doing was they were standing on chairs against the window, and they were taping things on the window to look like falling leaves or something. And then I saw one little child came in and he was trying to get a chair in there and he couldn't. So one of the other kids, no one told him anything. He just got up and he went and helped him take his chair over, set it down, and he climbed up on this chair and started working. And this was there was no one in the room. There was me and three children in there. And again, we don't do that. We supervise them to the point of them not having any initiative or. And this was some of the grounds of the places that we were. This is just um, the the middle parts where everybody gathered during the day. So this was a club of older gentlemen who came to play cards every day. And this is just the plaza. And there were people and cars and bicycles and everything just kind of all together. And this was at one of the schools. It was a farm school that we went to.
Mm.
And again, this is an example of an area where children would just go inside there, and the teachers weren't standing there, but the kids were doing things like arranging different natural materials.
And I wonder, as a project that came out of, the decline of fascism in Italy with Mussolini, this democratic Reggio Emilia approach emerged. And I've often wondered, because I've also been really blown away by the freedom of movement that the children have in the schools. So they'll position teachers in different rooms, and then the children can freely move around, which is very different from what I've experienced in North America. Um, and I wonder if some of that design of spaces, so that children can not only encounter each other, but can also have this freedom of movement, isn't inspired by living under fascism for so long. Um, but even the babies in the infant rooms have the freedom to crawl into their sleep spaces when they feel tired and want to go to sleep, which is just so powerful.
We're kind of regimented with routines and
Mm.
mandated things that we have to do for children that we forget that sometimes they just need the freedom to be able to explore. And again, these were all areas where children had gathered, like they gathered all these rocks and put them together. And all the little tiny, I don't know if they look like apples, but they're not, acorns or something. Bicycle wheels that they had decorated. And it's not like fancy. I mean, it looks beautiful, but it's not fancy. Look at the wood. They found old wood and, made these pedestals for these wheels. Again, organized by color. Even just sticks, big piles of sticks that children had wrapped up and Look at how cute this is. I mean, and here's the writing on it. Somebody's writing what was going on.
Well, it looks like math too to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that I think a lot of North American educators don't understand that this is it's not only just an artistic experiment, it's also a cognitive and math and engineering feat that children are doing. And we just assume when they have put these little objects on here, they're counting them as they go or making comments to themselves.
Yep, STEAM with the A for art. Yes.
And this is just all like fabric and rope and branches. And even the branches, they just arrange them in certain ways. And this is all, well, maybe some of the tying was done by adults, but the gathering was definitely done by children. And here was some of they had this big table arranged for us. It was at night or getting on towards afternoon when we were there. Here the cooks are waiting to greet us and talk to us. Like they're part of the curriculum, really. It's not like the cooks are the cooks over in the kitchen. The children go into the kitchens to help cook. We
Right.
went to one school, and that was part of the jobs of the children every day. There was a group that went to the kitchen. They donned their little hats and aprons and prepared the food.
Well, if a kitchen isn't a laboratory, I don't know what is.
Hmm. And this was one of the school buildings. But look at these little arrangements on the ground here, even.
Is that the Remeda Day? No.
No, this was at a farm school. And they had prepared a special lunch for us at the school.
Oh,
And now some of their little clay creations out there. And this was really interesting. This is what I want to build at the center for children to work in there so that it's kind of protected by the sun, is protected by, I don't know, just the framework or something. And I think I have a picture on the inside. Yeah, there was a little low table with different organic materials on it. And this was one side of it. This is just stuff that people found and gathered and put together.
wow, that
And
is
these
so
are
cool.
paintings by the children, outdoor paintings.
And everything's super accessible and organized and beautiful.
And the children had access to it at all times.
Mm, mm.
I don't know how many more pictures I have here. Yeah, the food was amazing. And the children helped to do all the food too.
Oh, what was that wall with the Native American or Aboriginal or what do you remember what that was?
Not really. I think it was in one of the schools.
Oh, interesting.
A lot of people ride bikes. And here was some of their other documentation, the little stories and books and
How would you describe, like, what does documentation mean to you, Sharon?
um hang on, I'm going to stop sharing for a sec. It's a way to make visible what the children are learning in ways that people can really access. So it's not like some, I don't know, content standard language that people aren't going to really understand. It's like a, a process that the children are going through to learn different concepts and to develop cognitive skills and things like that. So, all right, so do you want to see the boulder storage area? Because I think it's about the same size as the one we have here at the center.
Yes, I have never seen that. Can you give us a little bit of context for folks that aren't familiar with the Boulder School?
Yeah, the Boulder School is a Reggio Emilia school. It is an extremely beautiful school. It's just like big open area places for children to play with lots of light and color and tons of different material. So this was one of their storerooms. They had several, but this was one. So these are some of the ways that they stored different types of material that we could do easily. And teachers would come in there. Children didn't come into this area. Teachers came in, got stuff, and brought it out. Or children could come in supervised and choose what they wanted, but they weren't just, it wasn't a play area.
Sharon, we're not seeing your screen.
Uh-oh, what's going on?
Oh, thanks,
Oh,
Fang.
I stopped sharing, huh? Let me see. Let me start that again. Okay, should I start over on that one then?
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Okay, so this was inside one of their store areas. So I wanted to show you this because of the simplicity of the storage containers.
Whoa, that's about the size of the Remedio Center.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. This is just about the same size.
Wow.
Yeah. They had several of these types of rooms, and again, they were not for children to go play in these areas.
This
Although,
is in Boulder, Colorado.
yeah,
This was not for the children. This was not a provocation space. This was for the adults.
yeah, children could go in with an adult and say, well, this is what I need. But it
Mhm.
wasn't a place for children to go in because it would become very and much in disarray quickly. But these kinds of things are so simple. We can do this.
Shoe bag. Yeah. Cardboard, wood. So then as I'm working with children around, recycling literacy, so where do materials come from? Where, the life cycle of a material, which is very indigenous. Like, so where do you think this material comes from? What do you think it is? Like, what is it made out of? Oh, wood, plastic, they start to identify how could we give it a new life? How might we, give it a new identity? What could we do with it? And they're very open-ended. So the children really need to work with each other because they're not used to these materials that are very hyper open-ended. And then where do you think this material will go when we're done with it? Where do these materials go?
Yeah.
Um,
It takes a really long time for children to get used to this kind of material and having freedom to use it. Without that training, I guess you would call it that process training, they tend to go in and pull it all out and make a huge mess. But if you do it in small bits and organize small areas and tell them, okay, this, and then we have to put this stuff back, or you just choose one of this and one of this. I've given children baskets before where they could choose 5 items,
Mhm.
and then they could take those items and use those for something.
Yeah, constraint can be very creative.
Yeah. Okay, I guess that was it on there.
Oh, those are amazing. Thank you so much.
Right, I'm not sure if I have, what else do I have? Oh yeah, this is kind of interesting. I'll share this, this shouldn't take too long. This was a NARIA conference that I went to, and NARIA is the North American, let's see, Reggio Emilia Association. So let's see. Well, you can see them. So this was this was something I did by Zoom. Let's see if I can make this bigger.
Well, you'd be getting into all sorts of trouble for taking these pictures.
No, we could take pictures on this. You see on the top up here, can you all see it right here? On
Yeah.
the top, there's the speaker there. So this was kind of interesting. They were doing a thing on tools. And so they had gathered a bunch of tools. And again, we don't let children play with these kinds of things, but they're so interested. We started a little tool exploration at the center, and I brought in tools that I found, they were just different types of things. And they were totally amazed. But they were not able to do this because they'd never experienced this. A few children kind of started doing this, but this kind of use of materials takes a really long time for children to practice and be able to use without getting hurt or
This is interesting. They did this with the bike BC a lot, the bicycle project too.
yeah,
I
and
haven't seen this before though.
yeah, and
That's fun.
there's like a long walkway between the center and the town. And so as you walk through there, there's all of these beautiful pictures of things that children have made, and it's just amazing. Their documentation is everywhere.
Oh,
I
wow.
love this one.
Visual metaphor in art. It becomes three-dimensional. The drawing becomes three-dimensional
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the reuse materials. Mm-mm-mm.
So, I mean, we can collect just a series of items that I don't know, like I don't know, old kitchen things like that kids have
Mm-hmm.
no idea what it is. Because if
Mm.
they know what it is, then they make something different. But if they don't know what it is, then they have to imagine what it could be.
And if the material comes from their home, like the Beautiful Stuff project, which I'll ask the inquiry students to participate in as a family involvement project, where we ask children's families to collect materials that they find or that might otherwise go in the garbage, give them some examples, and then the children bring them into school and they can tell us the stories of these materials. Oh, these were my grandmother's buttons, or,
Yeah, yeah.
mm-hmm.
There's a little video that I'm going to show you that it was just amazing. This was a street scene. Oops, let's see if I can get it to play. Oh no, that's not it. Sorry, that's the wrong one. No, I can't find it. Oh well, it was just a scene in the plaza, and they were uh it's just an everyday thing where the people came. Oh, here it is.
The Ramita Day book
Did
is,
you see that? Am I
no,
sharing that?
you're not sharing.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay, now can you see it?
yeah, it's small, but yeah.
Yeah, so I mean it was everybody busy. We don't have that here.
In Italy, they have the big, well, here actually in Fresno, there's quite a few thrift, what do you call it? Markets. I've been impressed. But in Italy, they have it too, where they have the used clothes, because you go to like what's it called? The Apple, whatever market, the orchard, some of the markets, and sometimes sections of the markets are, like newer materials that are maybe like a lot of them from China. And then you go into other sections where it's a lot of used clothing, a lot of, like thrifty kind of stuff. But the Italians are really good at that. And the Ramita Day is when they bring out all of the creative reuse materials into the public and expose, the community, children, passerbyers, to these materials. And the Ramita Day book was the first book I was ever, encountered around this project. It was the first one that came out, was the only one for a long time. And even though you read the book, you can hear, you can smell, you can tell that it's very multi-sensorial. The Ramita Day out in the public, there's smells, there's sounds, there's, it's very child friendly that way.
And it's also community minded. I saw it was we were eating in different restaurants. We would see like little vignettes and little stories of children's work. You'd be sitting in a booth and there'd be this little story. And one of the things that I discovered in what the stories that they told us in the workshop was that they asked the children to or maybe the parents took pictures or talked to them about how their children behaved in restaurants. And the children would describe what happened. So then they were given chairs and they showed, this is what I do in a restaurant. They were crawling under chairs and stuff. And so they took videos of that. And then some of the parents got together and they had a theatrical performance and they did the exact same things the children did. So this was in the big square. So they brought the chairs out and they were all dressed in black and the parents did the exact same things that were in this video as it was being wound. So it was just really interesting the way they documented children's ideas and thoughts.
Oh, that's wild. So Mallory, are you still here? Mallory, are you still here? Mallory has been on a Remeda or Reggio study tour. Maybe she left.
No, I'm here. Sorry. I stepped away
Oh.
from my computer for a second.
When did you go to Reggio?
I went this summer. It was a 5-week trip.
And it was to go see the schools of Reggio Emilia?
So we studied in Reggio Emilia and we got to learn all about Loris Malaguzzi and all the fun stuff.
Who is that through?
It was through Fresno State, but it was through a company called USAC.
Huh. And then were there Fresno State faculty that went?
No, and there wasn't actually anyone from Fresno State that went either that session.
Did you go to Remeda?
No, I did not go to Remeda.
Okay.
We just got to learn
Um,
about it all.
Oh, that's so wonderful. So basically where we're at now at the fifth meeting of Remedio, which is, you know, the Italians, because they lived under the fascism for so long, one of the things that they tell us all the time is don't copy us. Do this in your own context with your own identities. And I think a lot of that has to do with the schools were first built out of the rubble, like I told you in the module in the Canvas, because the mothers and the factory workers wanted their children to learn democracy so they wouldn't fall prey to fascism again. And so, you know, a lot of it is like thinking for yourself, you know, or even thinking for yourself as socially as a group, not necessarily just as an individual. But this encouragement to always do it in our own context and to increase that diversity, right? So we're not all just doing it like the Italians do it, which is kind of how it ends up, if you ask me, but that's okay. So uh so Remedio is a response to that. We are, you know, in the Central Valley. We have a majority Mexican American population, highly bilingual, you know, 15th most diverse state in the country. So what does Remeda Creative Reuse Recycling Center look like in our context with our identities? And that's what we're trying to figure out here and socially construct together in this space once a month. So right now where we're at is last time we met, we were kind of building up to this idea, and this is why I invited Fang Tater. How do you
Teeter.
pronounce it?
Teeter.
Teeter. Okay, good. To come tonight. Thank you so much for making time for us, Fang. Fang is the sustainability analyst for Fresno State. And actually, Andrew, who's been a steady supporter of this project, which is really in its infancy at Fresno State. I did it for quite a few years at Portland State University. Suggested that we invite you into the conversation because we started to get excited about this idea of how to source containers for our Remedio. Maybe possibly from Fresno State students and faculty. So our Remedio will look very different from Boulder or Italy, or I don't know what will look like, but right now we have shelving and we desperately need containers. So that's kind of where we're at, is how do we want to display the materials? Where do we want to source the materials from? Local businesses, from students, you know, but we need to contain the materials before we start like bringing them into our little tiny center. And our tiny center is very special too. I come from a larger center, not quite like the warehouse in Remeda, like Sharon shared with us. But ours was fairly large. It had 5 rooms. And we have a little tiny space at Fresno State, but I love this idea of tiny scale and tiny things, which I think a lot of people love little tiny things, not just children. And so we don't have a lot of space, but we do need like containers for when we start to bring materials in. So, Fang, do you think it would be possible to like somehow like make a call to Fresno State community to collect plastic containers, or I don't know. We're kind of, we haven't gotten much past the basic concept. Or does anybody have any thoughts or any what did you see, hear, wonder about Sharon's presentation? What did you notice, or any questions you have? Oh, I realized I told the IPOP folks you could take off at 6:50, so I do want to respect that. Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, thank you. Okay,
I have a question actually, if you don't mind. Oh,
yeah.
so is there like a timeline or an event or activity that you want to like introduce this to like the broader campus community to solicit either donations or participation in some fashion? Because I imagine I don't know much about the structure of the Remedio or the Remeda spaces elsewhere, but it seems like there's a lot of very intentional, dedicated people that are working with these programs, to make it look, to make it be maintained, to solicit donations. And I'm here at this meeting, but during the day, like I don't like I wish I could help you, but there's other things that happen during the day. So I don't know if soliciting volunteers is also a part of the program or the structure, because I know you have the space, but I think soliciting picking up items, arranging
Mhm.
them in that beautiful fashion,
Mhm.
like the day to day, like how are you well, is there like a goal? I know this wasn't part of your question, but how are we going to garner the manpower and the support that it takes for the upkeep and sort of the like the solicitation of the needs for the Remeda Center, so the Remedio, so that it grows and can expand and receive all those items. 'Cause I know you, Dr. Dominguez, like
Mhm.
you're busy during the day and then you have your classes. But if we need to
Mhm.
pick up something from a business that's donating, typically hours of operation are like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And that might not work with your particular schedule. So I guess I would want to ask what other Remitas or other similar centers do to kind of what their staffing is or volunteer staffing it looks like, and how we want to communicate with like the businesses or organizations who could potential be donors or sponsors in different ways for the center's needs.
That's such a good question, and I'm just wondering where Vane went. Did we scare? Did I scare her? Because your question is important, and so here's kind of where I'm at with it. We have to be realistic. I haven't gotten a grant yet. I'm meeting with the grant and research folks next week to start the process of getting a grant that could pay um for people to for grad assistance or whatever to help with it. Based on where we're at right now, what I'm thinking at this point is that with this idea of epistemologies of display, so if there's plural ways to go about this and they're encouraging us to do it in our own context with our own identity and our own limitations, maybe for now, if we can source containers from the campus, you're right. We would need somebody to volunteers to help with that. And what I was hoping my class could be service learning, but that's gotten a little bit complicated. But once we get the containers, what I'm thinking is for now, rather than trying to figure out how we're gonna deal with the logistics and the legalities and the gas that it would take, which is not, really environmental, to get the materials from local businesses. For now, what if we have students do beautiful stuff projects and maybe like Heaven's Classroom at Huggins Center that I'm working with, and just source the materials from students and Heaven's Classroom. What if we said, hey, everybody start to collect plastic? And then we, focus on plastic, or everybody, start to collect textiles or bottle caps, or, however we want to go about it, but source it from our students who are bringing those materials into Kremen. And then we don't have to deal with any of the driving and pickups and coordinating with local businesses, et cetera, that I've done before as a grad assistant that take a lot of time. And once you build that relationship with the business, you don't want to be like, oh, sorry, I couldn't make it. Oh, sorry, they didn't show up. You know what I mean? Like sometimes they get kind of crazy about pickup.
We have
Right.
a really dedicated community of families at the center who have always come through when we ask for anything. So we could even do like a center-wide thing and ask parents to donate things. And if we had a specific list, like plastics and maybe the shoe things and
Yeah.
just, things like that, I'm sure we could get them. And I'm sure they would donate like, I don't know, old utensils and stuff like that, so we could have those types of things there. And there's some,
Eyeglasses. Yeah, I think the main thing right now is just the containers.
Yeah.
Andrew, were you gonna say something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I love that idea of the like utilizing the network within the center. I also wanted to suggest just maybe the art design and art history department, because I think they oversee a lot of I don't know if they're called labs, but like the spaces that they use for art classes that are hands-on. And they may have like scraps of materials that could work to be utilized as materials for art projects that might be like, or projects, but like more art oriented materials that they have left over either from classes or projects. I don't really know what their process is for, recycling or dealing with leftover materials from their projects, but it might be a good relationship to form.
there are a lot of items in the art department, recycled items. There's a whole outdoor space where there's a lot of stuff in there. There's um a room with the teacher who does the art for credential students, and that room is full of stuff. So they
Oh,
might
wow.
be to donate some of it.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that they have sustainable practices, but I'm sure that, if Remedio made a connection with them, I'm sure they might have some materials that could be utilized for the class sizes that we're looking at, that would be beneficial.
I love that idea. Heaven, did you have some thoughts?
I know I previously discussed it. I agree with Sharon that luckily in our program we have really amazing parents who are more than willing to share with us. And I know that I could easily discuss it with other teachers in the program, or even bringing up during meetings, and share it with us because I know who my parents are and what they're able to bring in or willing to bring in. But there are so many other parents that have different careers or have different resources that I don't. So I would be more than willing to, if that's what we're going to come to decide, to discuss it and outreach to those other parents, because if there's other available resources or connections that we could make with different classrooms, I definitely want to give them that opportunity, especially because the center is going to be for all the classes. So I want everyone to be a part of it because I may be the teacher in these meetings, but I definitely want to reach out to discuss it with other teachers. So that we can already have that connection and they can be more knowledgeable about it, because I do have some discussions with some teachers in passing and they're very interested in it. So if I am to extend this invitation to them to be a part of it and do that creation, I know that they would excitedly join in.
And just FYI, I applied to do a study tour to Reggio Remeda for next spring. Imagine, just put that in your dream world. Rachel, did you have any thoughts on container?
I'm not sure if you guys already covered it, but I was just thinking, like you mentioned, donations from students. Like if you could just have something simple, like a sign on your building with a like a brief little synopsis maybe of what you're asking for, and just a drop off box on campus. I thought of that because I know that they're in I think it's the Remedio building, the Early Childhood Education Center. There's a box where there's sometimes free things for students, and I've even grabbed a few of these things. So if there was like, if it's possible to put like a box where you can just drop off items such as containers and things like that. I'm
All
sure
right.
you've already thought of that, but that's all I thought of.
Yeah, no, I love that idea and the Remedio thing on it. I'm also thinking I want to let you guys go because I know oh great, okay, that we're getting to the end here, but I'm wondering about cardboard. Maybe we just use cardboard boxes to hold materials. It's not very transparent, but okay, well, more.
Or if you get the grants, we could buy clear plastic bins too.
It might be worth it to do that, just to buy them new and just plan on using them for a really, really long time. Yeah. And in the meantime, use cardboard or something until we can do better. Okay, well,
I'm,
thank you.
I'm not sure. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
go
not sure how easily available it is, but sometimes after Christmas, ornament containers are usually clear and plastic. Sometimes people like me, I've got a few I'm going to throw out. So when you're looking for donations, something like that might work.
Or sometimes just examples of things because people don't really know recycling stuff. Is that like things we actually trash or do we have to clean it first? But, examples of things like that, that's a great idea. I just threw a couple of those away, not even thinking.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, super. All right, well, we'll continue this conversation next month. I'll send out an invitation. Oh, thank you so much, Andrew. And thank you, Sharon, for that incredible share.
You're welcome. That was fun.
Good, 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 good. I thought so too. Good night.
Hey. Bye.
Bye. Good night. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting and really important for us to get out that message of what we're trying to do because nobody really knows right now.
You mean like, hold on. Um,
Like I like Rachel's idea of placing containers and then like some sort of documentation about what we're actually doing. Could be a picture of the space, could be some pictures of different types of containers, I don't know, just pictures of recycled things that they could possibly donate. We also have a lot of old blocks at the center. I don't know if they'd be willing, but they're sitting in storerooms right now, just sitting there.
blocks.
Wooden blocks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I could talk to them about that to see if they'd be willing, because it would be the center using it mostly, so it would
Yeah.
give them a way to use those types of things.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay. So next steps are to document what we're doing, pictures of the space, pictures of what we're looking for, and to start to get that message out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
And then
really cool.
I can show you those bins of things that we have in the kiln room too at any time if you want to have a look at that stuff, because that stuff would be perfect for going in there.
Showed me, I saw that. You showed me already.
I didn't show you what was in it, did I? Did we look inside the bins?
Oh, no, we didn't.
Uh,
No, you're right. Okay. Okay, I have a feeling we wouldn't have a trouble sourcing materials. My main concern is not putting the cart before the horse.
Getting too much stuff before you have places or thoughts about how to store it.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen them really not use them intentionally in Ramita, but I feel like we would need, that's mostly for textiles and stuff like that. So yeah, it would be really interesting to see what containers we could source from
Yeah,
Huggins.
and if we just stayed with containers at first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with a little explanation of where we're going with this.
yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Okay. All right, we'll talk more. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Have a
All right.
good.
You too. Bye.